Guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an email sent from a subscriber, and this is a guy telling his story about basically his lousy, shitty marriage that he is dying to get out of. The guy's 46 years old, and he's been married for 24 years. So he got married when he was 22. And a big reason he did this, as you're going to find out, is because of his family's religion and all that, and that's just what you do. You get married young and you pump out babies, okay? And as you can probably imagine, a lot of the negative stereotypes that happen in a marriage is in his marriage. And the only reason he stayed as long as he has is obviously because he really loves his kids and he doesn't want to lose them and all that. And his wife's obviously a giant pain in the ass and all sorts of stuff you're going to hear about. And I'm doing this, guys, because the guy's looking for help. He's looking for advice on how best to have his exit strategy and get out of this and start over. But also I'm doing this as a warning to young guys. This is yet another story to warn young guys that are in their 20s, that are thinking about getting hitched, exactly what is extremely likely to happen in varying degrees to you if you go down this route. Okay, I'm just telling you how it is. And this guy got married 24 years ago. But getting married now, it's even worse. So, and also this is to show guys that are married right now and in a similar situation that there is hope. You can get out, okay? You're not alone. There are plenty of guys out there all over the world just like you. And if this can help give you a little hope to see you're not alone and it's time to break away and start over and get a clean slate, it can happen, okay? Life's not over in your 40s or 50s or whatever. You can start over. So I'm going to share his story, and we're going to then go down and break it down, and I'll share my opinion on what I think he should do and handle it at the end. He says, "Hello. I appreciate you taking the time to read this, even if I don't respond. Even if you don't respond. I've enjoyed your channel a great deal over the past 4 or 5 months, and I've decided to reach out to you for some perspective. I'm a grown-ass man, and I don't really care about other people's opinions, but this situation is intense, and I know enough not to trust my own judgment without getting some perspective. I also feel my circle of guy friends are too close to be unbiased. Who better to ask than you, a man similar in my age, who shares a common perspective on all things male and female? Well, brother, it's your lucky day because I'm happy to help you. That said, I will try to keep it to 2 or 3 paragraphs, but no promises. Yeah, it's longer than 2 or 3 paragraphs, but that's okay. I'm a 46-year-old guy married to a 46-year-old woman for 24 years. Yeah, I committed the cardinal sin of getting married young and every other relationship mistake you preach about. But nonetheless, here I am, and I have to deal with it as such. Bro, this happens to so many guys. They get married in their 20s. They don't know any better. And in your situation, which you're going to find out to the people that watch this right now, a big part of it had to do with his family's religion. Okay, that's just what you did. You were conditioned to do that, And this guy was young. He was 22. And if he got married at 22, he was obviously engaged, probably 21. Again, no life experience. He may have just gotten out of college at that point. I mean, it's crazy. I'm not knocking this guy. I'm just telling you guys what happened. And I mean, I just never get how a father or uncles or grandfathers or other people think this is a good idea and go along with it and encourage this shit. What life experience does somebody have, man or woman at 22? They need to get out there and be in their own place, pay their own damn bills, live a little, experience some things. Then if they got to do it, wait till they're a little bit older, more life experience. Again, this goes both ways. 22, it's insane. But you're going to see where this comes about. It says here, not only were we young, she got pregnant with our first child after just 3 months of marriage. What a hell on earth. Newly married, and she's already pregnant. She had a decent government job for someone her age. But I was a nobody working a low-paying desk job. To add a little context, we met attending the same strict church that our parents were also members. No names, but they are a fundamentalist Adventist religion known for knocking on doors. Sex before marriage is a no-no, all the usual taboos, including no divorce unless someone cheats. Things were rocky from the start, and we turned out to be mismatched, which a part of me knew before walking down the aisle, but we were young, good-looking, and horny. See, if he didn't fall into the trap of his religious faith, or at least, let's just say the faith of his family's religion, he would at least hooked up a few times, and so he would have let, his brain down south there do all the thinking to get married, and then you see what happened. And the fact that he was literally walking down the aisle, she was walking down the aisle, but he was in the wedding, and he was thinking, his gut was telling him this isn't a good idea. Trust your gut always, guys. But this, again, I'm not knocking this guy. This happens in varying degrees to so many guys. You know, it's a shame. This is why I do this, to help these young guys out. If this guy's story that I do today can help just one guy out somewhere in the world that's in his 20s, and he's thinking that his girl's different and everything will be okay, and this makes him start to investigate more things about her, learn more things about himself, what he wants, and at the very least puts this shit up on hold for a while, then it's been worth it. He continues, it made sense at the time. As with all relationships, it went downhill and honestly has been far more down than up, although we have supported each other and have gotten better at not fighting. If you call that better. It's mostly passive-aggressive shit. When she's downstairs, I go upstairs. When she comes upstairs, I go downstairs, etc. It's like a little dance. Yeah, that sounds real fun. That sounds like a great way to spend your life. And I'm not knocking this guy. I'm just saying that's a lot of marriages. Eventually they become roommates and they just tolerate each other because they're living in the same house and they have kids and they don't want to, hurt the kids to break off the marriage. That sucks. There's a whole world out there and a life worth living than doing this bullshit. We end up having 2 great kids. Our son is 23 and our daughter is 19. The only thing holding me back from having divorced her miserable ass was her getting pregnant so soon. I wouldn't do anything to jeopardize my role in my son's life. I had a great father, he deserves the same. And of course, my daughter has wrapped me around her little finger, mostly. Back then, there was zero chance I would have gotten custody and her petty vindictive ass would have fought to keep me away. I did what I did and I have no regrets. Well, bro, what happened happened. You can't change the past, but my friend, you can now change how things are in the present and obviously your future. Okay? And that's great you're being strong for your kids. That's awesome. But I mean, in my opinion, it's better to part ways even if the kids are still growing up, because that way they don't grow up in a house seeing mom and dad hate each other's guts, fighting, or just not showing any love whatsoever, because the odds are those kids will end up in the same situation. Okay, I'm not saying absolutely, but the odds are strong it will happen. I've seen this many times throughout my life in both friends and family I've known. Okay, no joke. But what's done is done, and you have the power right now, my friend, when you hear this video and hear my response, to change your life for the better. That said, as I got into my 30s, I realized I had allowed myself to become everything I hated in other men. The wife had me pussy whipped. I felt like I had to do everything in my power to keep her happy, lest she act like a complete psycho bitch, yelling and screaming and ranting, to say nothing of withholding sex as punishment for minor infractions of her rules and demands. Again, does this sound, to you young guys watching this, does this sound like something you want to do? Come on here. But this guy, what he's describing, sounds like a buddy of mine's marriage that he refuses to get out of and thinks that he has to do the honorable thing. And he's kind of like a Puritan in that way. And he's miserable, but he won't do anything about it. With my friend, I swear, I think once COVID's over, his wife's going to leave. And he'll be brokenhearted and not understand why, even though I've told him what's going to happen. But it'll be the best thing that ever happened to him. We'll see about that. But this thing he's doing here, all these things to make her happy so she won't act crazy and all that, that's appeasement, okay? And in world history, what happens when you appease an aggressor or a bully? It doesn't end well. But so many guys do this in marriages, and they wonder why their wives walk all over them and treat them like crap. Women are always going to test guys, whether you just start dating or you're in a long-term relationship. They're going to test your strength. They're going to test to see if they can get you pee-whipped. They're going to test to see if you're the man they want you to be or hope you are. And so if you fail their tests, in other words, put up with their crap, their unreasonable, ridiculous nonsense, they're going to lose respect for you. And they lose respect for you, they're not going to love you, and they're going to treat you worse, in a way almost like punishing you for being a little pussy. It's no joke, and it happens. And guys watching this, I'm sure that have been married or in serious relationships has had this happen. If you're honest with yourselves, you know what happened. And so you can't do appeasing, okay? Goes on, I literally woke up one day and realized I was not the man I was meant to be. Hell, I wasn't even a man. I was a little bitch who did whatever she called for and exercised no self-will. That was unacceptable, and I immediately resolved to embrace who I was and wanted to be. A consequence, and consequences be damned. Well, except the one consequence, I wouldn't pay my kids with my kids' lives. I guarantee you, she knows darn well how much this guy loves his kids, and that's her leverage. That's how she can get her way, because she knows this guy doesn't want to leave them or risk losing them. I knew I couldn't leave them to her, but also wanted change. I started working out, got myself financially into better shape, and generally took charge, so to speak. Good job. That's the way to go. That's the path to getting your shit together. If she had just fallen into line, I likely wouldn't be writing this now. But the reality is, once a bitch, always a bitch. Well, there's truth to that, but also, this guy had obviously been weak so long that it would be very hard for her to not see him in that way. If he went 10 years with her running the show and bossing him around and lost all respect and love for him, if there was any to begin with, all of a sudden him starting to lay down the law, that would take a lot of laying down the law to get her to even think, to start to maybe even respect him a little bit. I'm just saying, I'm just being honest here, okay? There are times when you simply just throw in the towel and you move on. But in this case, he stayed in it for the kids because he loved them very much. And even though I know that was hard for him, I respect that he did it for his kids. But ultimately, look how he suffered all these years being married to the Wicked Witch of the West. He goes on. She would relax and things would be good for a while, but she always seemed to default to unhappy witch mode. Eventually, I developed another relationship with a woman who was also married. Yep, I cheated. Unabashedly. I felt then, as I do now, that if the wife was going to hold out on me, that is to say without sex as punishment, then I got to get it somewhere else. I'm paying the bills, carrying 90% of the weight with the kids, and she gets a free pass to do whatever she wants, and I'm still supposed to be faithful on top of all that? Hell no. Well, I'm going to say this, and I'm not going to get on some moral high ground here at all. If you guys have been watching me long enough to know that's not going to happen. But I will say this. If this guy cheated, and I can understand why he did it, but if he got caught, she would use that to turn the kids against him. Guaranteed. And this happened to a guy I knew. Guy worked at a gym. This guy in his 50s who was recently divorced. He got himself in a great shape, and he and I became friends. He told me basically he had the same type of marriage. Exactly. And there was no sex, except there was no sex, and all the bitchy bullshit and all that. And the guy eventually started having an affair because his wife just didn't want to do anything to fix it, let alone give him any love and any of that stuff. And he gets caught. And she used that to turn his kids against him. And to this day, the kids don't talk to him. And it's really a shame. And he's moved on and accepted it is what it is because they're grown kids. They're adults now. But the guy's in his late 50s now, in fantastic shape. He's dating and hooking up with women like 10, 15 years younger than him. He's having a blast on his own way, living his own life. But because he cheated, he got caught, the wife used it, and he lost his kids. And I know it breaks his heart every day, but it is what it is. So that's the one thing I'd say, that this guy, he risked a lot doing the cheating because she could use that against him. I ended that affair after a year and a half. I couldn't see committing to the other woman, and in the end, I got tired of living the double life. I never told my wife and feel no guilt. About 6 years ago, I meet another woman and carried on an affair again. This went on for 6 or 7 months, and in the end, same result. This time, the other woman had 2 small children and wanted a new daddy. We were compatible in a lot of ways and very happy, really. But I didn't want to take on 2 more kids and had the same situation play out all over again, and when things went south with that one. And they would have, guaranteed. So good for you on that one, man. I ended it and decided not to pursue any more relationships outside my miserable marriage, and that if I'm not going to leave her, then I should at least try to make it work. How'd that work out? I did what I could to let go of what had been some really bitter anger at the wife for taking good years from me, try to focus on the good times and build something. Again, how did that work out? You can't force 2 people, you can't force yourself to love someone, you can't force yourself to be attracted to someone, or get 2 people to try to force it. It's crazy, but people try to do it. It makes no sense. When it's done, it's done. Think about this. If this guy was just dating this girl, this was just his girlfriend, they weren't married or had kids, would he continue on with this? No. Because you can't force things, but people think they can in marriages, again for the kids. And again, this guy doesn't want to hurt his kids and lose his kids, but guess what, man? You're important too. You're allowed to be happy. There's no law that says that you can't be happy. In the end, it seems to have failed. She's not really happy, and neither am I. I tried to leave once, but got the major waterworks and promises of being better, but as with anything, coerced, it never lasts very long. A month or so went by with her not being a complete C-word. I'm not saying that because YouTube may have issues with this video. And it only served to show me that if she wanted to, she could be better. You're damn right she could be better. But she's not in love with this guy. She doesn't respect him because obviously all the years that he obviously was weak and let her push him around, you know? And she's obviously just a very unhappy person. Guaranteed. And people like that, there's nothing you can do. They're not happy unless they are miserable. And I'm sure plenty of you guys know women like this. In the end, we seem to have ended up right back where we always were. She nags and complains, and I ignore or even tell her to save it for someone who cares. Ugh, that's not a comfortable household to be in. She will never leave due to her religious convictions, which I no longer share. And because I pay most of the bills, despite us making the same money, is ultimately selfish to the core, which pretty much describes our whole relationship from her perspective. Her being selfish and taking anything and everything she can, from money to the bedroom, while I am left with scraps. I no longer bother initiating sex, as is the most boring, vanilla, one-sided affair you could ever imagine. It's just not worth the effort. We maintain separate lives, mostly. She does her religion and a group of good guy friends with whom I have a lot in common. She's basically a roommate who doesn't pay her share, save for her car note and buying food every once in a while. So he says they both make the same amount of money, but he's still paying for the absolute majority of everything. Does she have a secret account that she puts all her money in? I wonder why. This sucks. This is not good. Get out. Get out, get out, get out. Anybody has a marriage like this, get out. The ultimate point, after that long drawn-out context vomit, is that now our oldest is 23 and moved out, mostly to get away from his mother. Well, gee, what does that say? I helped him get a good job where I work, and now he makes the same money as me, 6 figures a year. He's happy, and I'm happy for him. Well, good job with your son, bro. You did a very good job with him. Our daughter is in school for a good career, and I've been helping her study for her required licensed exams. I'm ready to move on. I feel like I've done everything I can for my kids, and now they're old enough, it's time for me to make the hard decisions. I've applied for a job in Florida, which is where I want to move and ultimately retire. Just one of the many things she and I disagree about. That's awesome, man. Good job. And by the way, I'm seriously thinking about moving to Florida. I've been living in New England for, over 10 years. And just yesterday, October 30th, we got 4 inches of goddamn snow. I spent 20 minutes scraping it off my car this morning. And anybody who lives out in cold weather knows how that ice sticks to your windshield, how much of a pain in the ass it is to scrape that off. And the snow's melting because it's Halloween. And all that snow's dripping off the branches on my head, falling down my shirt. I'm sick of that bullshit. I am seriously thinking about getting the hell out of here in the next year or two. Time for a change. No more shoveling snow for me. Anyhow, it goes on. I have an interview scheduled for what is essentially the exact same job in Florida, as I work here in with very similar money. They sound interested, and if offered, I'm ready to take it and jump ship fast, quick, and in a hurry. Here is my dilemma. As I said, she will never leave me, and this is going to tear her up, mostly because she will lose a provider, but I'm sure in her own twisted way, she has convinced herself that she loves me. She doesn't love anybody. She's miserable, and a lot of people think that's just how marriages are, so that's just how you are. That's why I say so many times, if you're in a miserable marriage like this, and you got kids, and you're staying in it only for the kids, get out, because those kids are going to think that's just how things are, and they're going to be in the same shit in 15, 20 years as well. And you don't want them to be in that, so best to get out. But a lot of people don't realize that, and a lot of people, it's hard for them to make those decisions on their own. They need to have an outside party explain these things. Hence, that's why the guy wrote this letter to me. I also have to admit that it's impossible to live with a woman for 25 years and have 2 kids together and not have feelings, although I have no desire for her sexually and don't feel any love for her as a husband at all. History is a bitch like that, I suppose. I don't want to hurt her, which is impossible, but how best to make this move forward without being more of a dick than necessary? You're not being a dick, man. You're just moving on. I mean, you're miserable, and she's miserable too. Okay? And you said yourself the son moved out just to get away from her. What does that say? You're 46 years old. You don't have to feel bad about this. You gave her 25 years of your life. all those good years in your 20s, the good years in your 30s, and part of your 40s. Well, I have news, brother. It ain't over in the 40s. How do I know? Because I'm 40, almost 43, and I love my life. It'd be better if this COVID thing wasn't going on. I could travel, but aside from that, I'm goddamn grateful for what I have. And you can have that too. A happy life, to be free as a bird, to do what you want. But you have to take this step. He goes on, if I'm offered the job, not a guarantee of course, part of me wants to move and tell her that it's temporary and maybe we can get back together. Maybe she can ultimately move down here and rejoin me, and then let her down slowly over the next year or so. But then I'm worried she might try to actually do it. No. When you end it, you end it. You lay all the cards on the table and make it abundantly clear it is over. The last thing you want to do is move to Florida and be laying on the beach or going to Disneyland or whatever you want to do for fun there on your weekends and get texts and emails from her or calls wondering when she gets to move down or trying to kiss your ass. You want to be done with her. So when you get to Florida and you start your new life, it's over. I mean, obviously you're going to have some connection because obviously you're going to have divorce settlements and shit like that, but you're moving on. So don't give her false hope. And by the way, if you give her false hope, she may tell the kids and say that you gave her false hope and led her on, and that could cause problems with your kids. So you don't want that. But now that your kids are adults, you can sit down and have an adult conversation with them that is not working and you're unhappy and blah, blah, blah. But if you do any of that stuff to mess with her mind, to make it easier on you, because I know that's why you want to do it, because you want to make it a little easier when you lay this out, it'll come back to bite you in the ass. It's not worth it. Do it all at once. Let her know it's over. In any event, what's your perspective? How best to end this without doing any more harm than is necessary? There's going to be harm. It's going to happen. It ain't pretty, but you got to do it for you. What's the alternative? Stay in this miserable marriage, be miserable the rest of your life? Fuck that, dude. Should I tell her about the affairs? No, and I'll tell you in a minute why. The last one was more than 5 years ago. As I said, right or wrong, I have zero guilt and don't feel a need to unburden anything on her, although it may make us breaking up easier on her. It would give her an out, so to speak. But again, I don't need it for me. I just want to be as kind as I can and respect her history while honoring my need to get the hell away from her. I appreciate you reading this, and again, I apologize for the long-winded story, but it's a lot of history to condense. That's okay, man, and trust me, your long story, I guarantee would resonate with a lot of guys watching this. So, okay, number one, like I said, do not try to lead her on thinking that maybe it can work out and she can come down to Florida. No, lay the cards on the table. It's over, okay? But before you do any of that shit, dude, talk to a divorce attorney. Find out all your options, okay? Find out good, bad, and ugly. What is the most likely outcome given how things are, depending on what state you live in and all that. You know, you want to know the absolute worst case scenario, what you may be paying to her in alimony or splitting of the assets and all that shit, so you can be prepared for that. Once you've done that and you have things ready, and let's just say you got that job and you've checked out parts of Florida where you want to live and you got an idea about that, okay, time to do it. Break it to her, lay it all out, and go from there. And I think that's commendable that you obviously don't want to be a dick and hurt her and tear her heart apart, even though the last 2.5 decades has been miserable for you. Obviously, you're a good guy, but it's going to hurt her no matter what, and it's going to be conflict and yelling and screaming and crying and throwing books and dishes, and who the hell knows what she's going to do. You can get through this. If you got through 25 years of marriage with her and raising kids and all that, you can get through this. All right? So do this. And as for bringing up the affairs, don't even say a damn word. Because, again, like I said, the guy I knew, she could use that to turn the kids against you because you're ending it with her, and that's going to make her feel like shit. That's going to make her feel abandoned, even though she's obviously not in love with you, and it'll make her how she's going to look in society because her husband divorced her because, again, status is important to women. She finds out about those affairs, that's it, dude. She's going to use that to turn your kids against you. And the kids very well might. You don't want that. So as long as those women that you had affairs with are keeping quiet about it, she doesn't need to know. Just believe me. If you take anything from this video today, don't tell her about that. It is not necessary, okay? But go through the divorce, get it done, and move on. And I promise you, it will be hell for a little while, and you're going to take a hit financially, but bro, you can rebuild. You can start over. There's always a chance for a clean slate. I don't care how old you are, all right? And guys, when this guy starts over, he gets himself a place in Florida. He may get himself an apartment at first just to get a lay of the land, find out a good place to live eventually, buys a condo. Guys, we don't need a whole lot of space, okay? Why do guys generally buy those big-ass houses? Usually for the wife. because not just for the kids, but because the women, it's status, the big house and all that shit. Most guys don't care about that. So the guy can get a little place, he can save his money for a few years, bust his ass, rebuild that wealth, and he's got all his 40s and 50s and on to have a great time. You still got a lot of life living, but once you do that, I encourage you to get your ass to the gym, work out as often as you can, get yourself in great shape, be healthy, eat well, and all that. You're going to feel great. And since you're going to be in Florida, you're not going to have to shovel snow like I had to fucking do this morning, and it'll be a lot more pleasant environment. And there's going to be a lot of hot-looking young women down in Florida, depending on where you're going. And you get your shit together, and if you want, you can have fun hooking up with them. Because obviously, you can get other women. But remember this, don't get married ever again, my friend. After what you've been through, don't think it can work out round two. It's not going to happen. And don't move in with any of them. Just have a good time, live your life, and hopefully you can maintain a great relationship with your children. Because it sounds like you love them to death. That's awesome. All right. That's it for today, guys. I'm going to the gym. So be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.